What we had was the audacity and the single-minded determination to start the industry. In a work in partnership with the private entrepreneurs, government took steps that might have been seen as unconventional and indeed unorthodox. The government required that tourist resorts will be built only on uninhabited islands. It should be a one island, one resort concept. It put a limit on the number of rooms that could be built on a single island. It banned fishing within the lagoon of the resort island. And it banned coral mining and sand mining and introduced strict laws to preserve the corals. In addition, more than 50% of the resort island had to be left untouched to preserve the natural vegetation. All these regulatory measures made it necessary for the resort developers to design a tourist product that is sustainable, genuinely homegrown, authentic, and truly Maldivian. Today, tourism is the largest and most dominant industry in the Maldives. The country has a total of 109 resorts. Last year, the Maldives received over 1.1 million tourists into the country. Direct government revenue from tourism sector is over 35%, and over 82% of foreign exchange earnings come from the tourism sector. Yet, there is a growing recognition within the industry of the need to redesign the product so that the industry would attract more investment. There are now more than 80 islands leased for resort development in the last 10 years, but for various reasons have not completed construction. Among the reasons for the delay in these projects have been the lack of long-term finance in the industry and the viability of the concepts and designs proposed for the projects. The tourism development models we have used in the 70s, 80s, and 90s simply does not work very well in the new millennium. The other reason for a more creative approach to the tourist product is the need to expand its ability to create not only new jobs, but also jobs for locals in the industry. While the Maldives economy depends almost entirely on the tourism industry and its rate of return for the investors is lucrative, the benefits have not been shared evenly. Therefore, enhancing the employment of more Maldivians in the tourism industry is critically important for increasing wealth and welfare of the society. In order to encourage more creativity in the tourism and other industries in the country, the government took recently an unprecedented and a bold policy measure. In September this year, the Maldives passed a legislation to introduce special economic zones, or SEZs, in the Maldives. The SEZs in the Maldives will create new frontiers in developing the economy through diversification. The standard SEZ models that have been developed in other countries may not work in the Maldives. Most of the SEZs in the developing countries have characteristics which are very different from the Maldives, such as cheap and abundant labor. We do not have that. What we have is the ability to design a model that is suited for the Maldives. We have the opportunity now to learn from the experiences of other countries and develop SEZs customized for the Maldives. Yet, international institutions and some of the larger advanced economies have raised alarms about creating SEZs in the Maldives, and once again are advising us not to take such initiatives. This is on the perceived belief that SEZs in small developing countries like ours will create opportunities for a darker economy to emerge. Western governments and international institutions not only keep on issuing public statements and reports on the Maldives, they would go whatever length it takes to portray the Maldives as not so sunny side of life to the potential investors. Of course, we know that we have large fiscal deficits with high recurrent spending, have accumulated high levels of debt, have low international reserves while maintaining a pegged exchange rate, have weak institutions, have deep political polarization fueled and at times created by external interventions in local politics. These conditions are not unique to the Maldives. Most of the countries, even in the developed world, are plagued with some or most of these conditions. International financial institutions come to the Maldives with prescriptions to conform to certain international standards to deal with our macroeconomic conditions. They demand that the government cut expenditure to rein in fiscal deficit, reduce the civil service, cut subsidies, raise taxes on tourism, reduce government debt, and reduce domestic financing of the budget. These are the perfect prescriptions drawn from economic models developed for economies far advanced and different than the Maldives. Often a one-size-fits-all policy prescription. The experts who write these prescriptions are either unaware or they just ignore the realities in the country. The reality is that the 350,000 people of the Maldives, as small as it is dispersed into nearly 200 islands. And only 2 of these islands have a population in excess of 10,000. In several islands, there are less than 500 people. But the government is politically and legally obliged to provide to each of these islands, no matter how small the island might be, no matter how small the population is, with basic health care, water and sanitation, up to secondary school education, police protection, and of course, basic administrative services, including directly elected island councils. In addition to that, government, if it wishes to get votes from the islands, would have to give priority to demands made by the communities in the island that would always include the construction of harbor and quay wall around the island. Cutting down government expenditure means closing a school or a health center that will result in riots in the island. Cutting down expenditure means not constructing local harbor in the island that will result the local MP introducing a no confidence motion in the parliament against the relevant minister. External policy prescriptions fail to recognize that newly established democracies would not have the necessary political strength to take tough measures to curb public expenditure that might impact the provision of basic services. Unstable government, riots, and street demonstrations would make world headlines for a country like the Maldives. Such flash news stories would scare tourists away waiting to come to the Maldives. If the tourism sector collapses, government revenue would collapse, but expenditure would still have to go on. Because unlike a commercial company, the country cannot stop from running and providing public services. Unlike the assumptions in the economic theories, life in the real world would have to continue, and the government somehow has to get money, even if by a magic wand. Therefore, countries that are economically and politically vulnerable require more, not less investment to bring fiscal adjustment. They need investment in developing infrastructure, in creating jobs and realizing the dividends of democracy that would require creativity and policy innovation. Innovation for the purpose of creating wealth and improving welfare. Therefore, what the larger countries and international institutions could do is, instead of coming up with draconian policy prescriptions and always raising alarm about our countries to potential investors, help to create opportunities for the small states to achieve sustainable development. Instead of condemning every little policy innovation, encourage homegrown and authentically local solutions to meet local demands. All we ask is give us a fair chance to develop our countries. Then only would the societies of the developing and small states be able to manifest their then only would the societies of the developing and small states be able to meet their manifest destiny. then only the Maldives can continue to give a sunny side to the lives of the people of the world. Thank you very much.